السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Okay, I was requested yesterday to take some time out to focus on the topic of the removal of hijab due to fear. The removal of hijab due to fear. And many of the sisters were concerned with this issue because I guess it comes up throughout the community, throughout different parts of the community. And so I just wanted to set aside some time so we can clarify this issue. First and foremost, the thing we must take in consideration is, with regards to fear, is that the individual fear differs from person to person. So it's not correct or easy to judge someone else's fear to say that no, they don't have a level of fear that makes it permissible to or impermissible to take off the hijab. So fear is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that something is dangerous or likely to cause pain or a threat, some kind of bodily harm. So the Muslimah who is saying that she feels threatened or she's afraid and she does this action, we say her fear is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. But there's some things that we need to take into consideration with regards to this. And that's why we allotted this time to focus on some of these issues. The first thing is that this principle is established based upon this action is established based upon the principle عند الضرورات تبيح المحظورات, that in the times of necessity it makes that which is normally not permissible okay to do. It makes it what's normally not permissible okay to do. And like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ عَلَيْكَ الْبَاغِ وَلَا عَادٍ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then if the person is compelled, the person is forced by necessity without desiring disobedience, nor transgressing the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there is no sin upon him. Truly Allah is the all forgiving and the most merciful. Tayyib. So what we find from this hadith, this ayah, like what was mentioned by Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, Imam Abdurrahman al-Sa'di, he goes on to say, فَكُلُّ مَحْظُورٍ اضْطَرَّ إِلَيْهِ الْإِنسَانِ, everything that a person is forced to do, فَقَدْ أَبَاحَ لَهُ الْمَلِكُ الرَّحْمَنِ, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put or had made it permissible for him to do. He is in a situation where he's compelled to do something that normally is, or she is normally haram, so they do it based upon the rukhsa, the concession from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it is normally haram. I don't want to do this action, but I have no choice. So in that type of situation, a believer can eat pork. A believer, if forced, he can say, I don't believe, fearing his safety. Or for the sister situation, she decides to take off hijab because of fear. Now, focusing on the hijab, there are many things that must be taken into consideration. First and foremost, that it is commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is something that is obligatory for the woman, the Muslim woman, to do. It is something that is obligatory for the Muslim woman to do. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mandate anything upon the believers except that it is in his best of interest, or her best of interest. So it's in the best of the interest of the sister to cover not just her hair, but the hijab in totality, right? Because we explain or we understand hijab as if it's just covering up the hair. No, that's something different. That's another fiqh issue. But when we talk about hijab, we just want everyone to know that we're focusing on hijab kamil, all of it. So a Muslimah, she shall love wearing the hijab, first and foremost. She shall love and she should desire wearing the hijab. Because with it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her her honor. He gave her the rights. He gave her a sake of sacredness walking in the streets. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He honored her by giving her and mandating her to wear the hijab. And this is why you see the hijab is not only obligatory in the Quran, it is also obligatory in the previous books that came before Islam, or before the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commands the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for sake of time, we just stick to the English. He says, O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the believing women to draw their cloaks over their bodies. Draw your cloaks over your bodies. So this is the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of the Muslim women and all of the non-Muslim women to cover their private parts, to cover their bodies in honor of them, in honor of the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in honor of the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing with regards to, we need to take in consideration with regards to a person saying, I felt compelled to take off the hijab, is that if a person is understanding that the hijab is wajib, it is obligatory in the Quran, then he must understand, or she must understand, that it is from the sha'a'illah, it is from the ayat, it's from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's from the signs of the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it has an elevated position with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for this reason we find that the Muslimah, she's honored when she walks through the streets in the most parts. For the most situations, she's honored when she walks in the street with hijab. Even non-Muslim men don't want to look at her or don't want to disrespect her because she's wearing the hijab. So the situation is what? If a Muslimah or a Muslim says that he's not able to, or she's not able to wear the hijab, then the scholars of Islam says it is upon her and her family, if the issue is fair, then it is upon them to move to a place where they're not afraid, where they can practice and elevate the sha'a'ir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they can elevate the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the signs of the religion. So for instance, in America, a person says, I am extremely afraid, I don't want to wear the hijab, I fear for my life. In that situation, it is upon that person to move to a country where they have the ability to move to, and they can practice the sha'a'ir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a situation calls and they cannot move from the country to another country, then it is upon them to move to another state. If they cannot move to another state, then it is upon them to move to another city. But it is not the first response to remove hijab. That is not the case. The case should never be, the first thing I'm going to do is remove the hijab. طيب. The second thing that needs to be taken into consideration for the sister who is saying, I fear for my safety when I wear hijab. طيب. So the second situation is, if she's in a situation where she says, I can't, my job is not allowing me to work with hijab on, and I fear I'm going to lose my job, but she has a husband, and she has a brother, and she has an uncle, and she has a father, and she has sons, and all of these male figures in her family is willing to support her, then it is obligatory upon them to support her. It is obligatory upon them to support her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الرِّجَالُ قَوَّامُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ, that the men are the supporters and the protectors of the women. The men are the supporters and the protectors of the women. So a sister, she doesn't have the excuse. She says, I'm afraid, but I'm taking a job that's permissible, but not obligatory. The job is permissible, but it is not obligatory. And she has a husband who provides, and he makes a salary, he makes a provision of income that is suitable for him and his household. And then she says she's going out to bring in extra money. So in that type of situation, she says she has to تقدم الحق الله عليها. She has to give precedence to the right of Allah that is upon her over the permissibility of her working. And then it is upon the husbands and the men to step it up and to provide and to support, their female folk. The next issue that we need to take in consideration, sisters who suffer from anxiety as a result of that the hijab or taking the hijab off, or they suffer from anxiety by wearing the hijab in the lands where she feels threatened. She feels threatened. طيب. If she's in an area where she feels threatened by being in that area, she feels threatened being in that area with hijab on, then she decides to take it off out of fear. She goes to another area where she doesn't feel threatened anymore. She has to put the hijab back on. The hijab doesn't stay off. It remains from the right of Allah and the commandments of Allah. So if she's in a situation where she feels dangerous, or she feels afraid in Brooklyn, example. She feels afraid in Brooklyn, but when she gets to Queens, she's comfortable. It's not permissible in her in that case to leave off the hijab. Now she has to put the hijab back on because the object of fear is removed from her heart. It is removed. In addition to that, I tried to keep it real short. In addition to that, brothers and sisters, what must be mentioned as a precautionary measure for the sisters who are rushing to claim that they are afraid, and they use the fear as an excuse. Firstly, is because someone or people have expressed a form of hatred towards her directly, and so she feels afraid. And in other situations, it is a hypothetical fear. The actual threats have never been made. The actual physical attempts have never been made. But because of the media, she feels that this is the better thing to do to keep safe. I say, be careful from the tricks of shaitan. Be careful from the tricks of shaitan. The tricks of Iblis, the tricks of the devil. Why do I say this? It's because for many of the people who say that they're going to take off the hijab, they're going to take off the hijab out of fear, they're from the sub-Asian continent. They're Arabs or Indian, Pakistanis in the sub-Asian continent, or from Turkish, or they look and they resemble Muslims with or without hijab. With or without hijab, they resemble Muslims. How many of the Sikhs were attacked because they resembled Muslims? How many of the Latinos were attacked because they resembled Muslims? So if the issue is that you're going to take off your hijab because you think that you're not going to be attacked, or it's going to protect you by taking it off, then you have to analyze your situation. Is it a hypothetical fear? Is it a fear that doesn't exist? Is it from the tricks of shaitan, or is it a legit fear? Is it a legit fear, or is it from the tricks of shaitan and it doesn't even exist? But you're afraid because perhaps you may be attacked, or you may be cursed, you may be verbally assaulted. Right. The second thing is that we caution, and the last thing we caution the sisters with is, myself personally, after discussing and talking to sisters who have taken hijab off out of fear, they never put back on the hijab. The hijab never comes back on. See, now fear is removed, but they became complacent and comfortable in a lifestyle without having hijab on. And then slowly and shortly, the character of a Muslim, it diminishes and is taken away. So what happens as a result of her taking off the hijab and being embraced by the non-Muslims? She totally changes, and she never returns back to the Islamic character, the Islamic identity that she once had. And the third thing, and the last thing, I said the second was the last, but this is the last thing, is that we have in America, I don't know if I agree with it or disagree with it, we have in America Hijab Day. The day that non-Muslim women put on hijab to show solidarity and support for Muslim women wearing hijab. So could you imagine the solidarity and the support for Muslim women to wear the hijab? When Muslim women wear the hijab, it raises the understanding to the non-Muslim that this is part of their religion. It has nothing to do with extremism. It is part of their religion, and this is what all of them are supposed to do. But if 50% of the Muslim women are wearing hijab, and 50% of the Muslim are not wearing hijab, then this causes doubt in the non-Muslim. And he says to himself, or she says to herself, that why is my friend Fatima not wearing hijab, but Khadija is wearing hijab? So Khadija must be the extremist, because Fatima, she's not wearing hijab. So it makes the person who wears hijab look like she is a form of an extreme cult, or extreme, or she is the enemy to the West, and the likes of this. And this is how Islamophobia and hatred is spread more, by not having a united uniform for all of the Muslim women. It makes wearing the hijab problematic. So we are also part to blame. أقول قول هذا واستغفر الله ولي ولكم وسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه فإنه غفور رحيم. If people have any questions, they can inbox me the questions. Also, if people have any questions pertaining to the class, when I send the flyer out, they can add their questions to the flyers, to the comment section of the flyers, or they can contact me directly. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.